Now this build is actually busted. Its speed clears everything you come across. It absolutely decimates bosses, hitting upwards of 60 million with Shadow Falcons. Just check this shit out. It sends out 9 Falcons that can hit for anywhere in between 5 to 7 million each. Pretty balanced, am I right? And not only that, it can face tank every mechanic in 500 corruption monoliths and above. Hell, it's so goddamn busted that I'll be taking this build to 1000 corruption with ease. Oh, and it's so goddamn easy to get the gear for this build that you'll be zooming in no time. It's the bird-shitting Giga Nuka 1.0, and we're here to check out how you too can play this amazing build. But first, how in the hell does it work? Well, to nuke entire screens, the build uses Dive Bomb. When combined with the Wings of Shadow passive and the correct stats, it spawns a shit ton of Shadow Falcons that explode all your enemies. This insane damage is boosted even further from the falconry skill, allowing our Falcon to gain all of our hard-earned damage multipliers. Not only that, though, we are also using Explosive Trap for damage, allowing us to stack unlimited physical penetration to our Falcon through the Sky Signal passive. To become an unkillable tank, we get a ton of defensives using Explosive Trap. Through the Smoke Trap's passive, this skill can grant us a shit ton of dodge chance via Dusk Shroud, basically making us invincible. Not only that, though, we also have Shift and Smoke Bomb. Shift being able to grant us actual invincibility through Shadow Slip, and Shadow Bomb granting us defensives, damage, and shadows for our sexy Falcon dive bombs. Well, shit, son. You now know everything you need to play this build. Good luck! Just kidding, fam. Let's take a look at the stats and gear that you're going to be looking for now. Firstly, there are a bunch of stats that you're going to want to stack. Let's look at the defensives first. Here, the most important stat is health, so stack that shit. Other than that, you're going to want to cap out your endurance at 60% and get your crit avoidance to 100%. I'm not capped currently because I'm hecking based and don't give a fuck. Really, though, it's goddamn important. You'll get a ton of it from the skill tree, so it's rather easy. Glancing Blows will get capped through your passives and Dusk Shroud when you're spamming Explosive Trap, so you can ignore it. Oh, and resistances are apparently a thing, so get those capped at 75%. Now, to the more interesting stuff, the damage stats. You'll be looking to grab 100% crit chance. Don't worry though, you get a ton of base crit through the passives and Smoke Bomb. Other than that, you'll be looking for meal Falcon damage as well as dexterity wherever you can find it, and stack as much minion damage as possible. Increased bow damage is also good, but a bit weaker than minion damage. For the build to feel really goddamn good, you're also looking for around 200 mana and 15 mana per second. Trust me, you'll thank me later if you grab this. Alright, let's head on over to space and this flying alien dildo to check out my amazing gear. Firstly, we'll be zooming around so goddamn fast that we'll require a helmet. You may think that this is absolute dog shit, but fear not. The implicits on this thing is absolutely godlike, making me coom uncontrollably each time I look at it. Other than that, you want to skip the chance to bleed, obviously, and instead grab some of that sick dexterity I was talking about earlier. Next, we have the bow. Talons of Valor is super easy to get, so make sure to grab it with as many legendary powers as possible. Smack on the passives that I'm running, and you're good to go. For Amulet, you're looking for Omnis. Mine is pretty dog, but it still works. If you can't find it, then just smack on some damage and health or resistances, and you're good to go. Now to hide those big old titties, you're going to need a chest. Mine is unfortunately atrocious, but I'll find a better one, don't worry. You want the same stats that I'm running, however, with one exception. You don't want shift ranks. Do you know by now which stat we want instead? Hell yeah, we want dexterity, and you know it. For the quiver, Mine is actually pretty decent, but I'd prefer crit chance over armor shred. You should also look to seal dexterity here, as the suffixes are pretty dogshit, and then grab some resistances. Onto the rings. Here you're looking for crit chance as implicit, and then make sure that you grab minion damage because we're our Falcon's cuck, and he needs more damage. Other than that, some great stats to grab here are endurance for that sweetie 60% cap, health, dexterity, and mana regen. If you're in need of some crit avoidance, then you can get that here as well. For the belt, we're basically looking for the same stats as the rings, but we can also grab cooldown reduction here, which is nasty good. So prioritize that, for fuck's sake. For the gloves, you're looking for the same ones as I have right here, as I'm using these to get the mana I need. You can, however, grab some other stats and use the increased mana blessing. In the planner, I'll show you this option so you can use that as well. Now for the boots, these are absolutely perfect. If I had tier 7 movement speed on this, they would be bangable for sure. 10 out of 10 would bang boots. And lastly, the relic. How painful it may be to get good rolls on this thing, it's actually busted. Don't worry though, we are sure to get the correct stats soon enough. Right? Right? Yeah. Here are the stats that you're actually looking for here. Minion damage, crit damage, resistances, and health. Enjoy the target farm, Lamau. Let's check out the idols now. Here it's easy to know what to farm because you're just grabbing a ton of health LOL. If you want the big damn like me, however, then you can also grab Idol of the Ranger here. Crit chance and bow damage, yummy. What about the blessings then? Well, there's 3 that you're going to look for. The other ones you can vary depending on your needs. First, you're going to grab Resolve of Humanity. This is the most important one, as 20% resistances is absolutely bonkers. The second most important is Spirit of Command, as this grants you big damn. Let me scratch that. This is the most important one, as big damage is the only reason we're here, right? Yeah. The last one that you definitely want is Bulwark of the Tundra, granting us a whooping 40% armor. Now, before you leave to jerk off or something, I'm here to grant you a secret tech that will boost your defensives and damage like crazy, and that is swapping out boots. Here I have 1 pair of boots for big damn, and 1 pair of boots for face tanking everything in the game, and I'm here to show you how this works. First, we have Morning Frost, granting us more damage from dexterity. And more damage is good, so pretty easy there. By swapping to these boots, you can one-shot bosses with ease. What about the foot of the mountain though? Well, check this out. The tooltip for these boots are currently bugged, but trust me in that they work. All of our dodge rating is converted to endurance threshold when we use these. Currently, I have 700 dodge rating, so these boots must be shit, right? Hell no, brother. Check out what we're getting from our Dusk Shrouds. We're actually getting the endurance threshold to our full health, which is sick. Free 60% damage reduction, pretty neat, huh? All right, friends, great job. Let's take a look at all the skill passives that we're rocking in this build now. I know that you're an extremely busy individual doing important stuff, etc., so I'll show you the important nodes that actually change how the build works and ignore the boring stuff. First, we have our spamming ability, Explosive Trap. Here we have a bunch of nodes granting us some extra traps and reduced cost. What is important is this one, however. Since we want to use Talons of Valor for the big damn, we want to use bow skills. And this skill node makes Explosive Trap a bow skill, which is neat. Throwing stuff also makes your arms sore, and we need those to masturbate. Am I right, or am I right? Now, Sky Signal is another sick node. This allows us to buff our Falcon infinitely, just by shooting out our traps. Due to this, we also want to make sure that we're zooming all the time, constantly shooting arrows. This node is definitely one of the most important ones. Smoke traps. It allows us to stack a shit ton of dodge and also cap out our glancing blows, which is hecking nice. Next, we're grabbing some extra damage right here, and then we also make sure to grab Ash Compartment, allowing us to stack up to 50% resistance shred with ease. Alright, let's check out the shift skill. We start by grabbing some cooldown reduction and a ton of damage from deadly ambush. We then pick up some points in shadow recuperation for some extra healing, and then we have a ton of sick nodes to grab. On the right side, we grab momentum for movement speed and then lasting presence for an extra shadow. As you know by now, the more shadows we have, the more dive bombs we'll get. So here's one way to grab an extra dive bomb. We then go here, pick up some mana regen, and pick up shadow slip for actual invulnerability. We then have elusive. These two nodes together are actually nasty. Let's check out why. When shifting, you first get invulnerability, which is nice in itself, but then you can also get the dodge cap with at 82, which is also more or less invulnerability. In other words, by shifting everywhere, we're pretty much unkillable. Nicely done, friends. Let's check out the falconry skill now. Be warned though, because these skills are so goddamn good that you may start cooming uncontrollably just by looking at them. Let's check out the ones up here that work with Falconer's mark. Whenever our falcon hits stuff, enemies gets marked forever, pretty much like a tramp stamp, or AIDS. We grab these nodes so we can get here, to Avian Arsenal. By consuming these Falconer's mark, we can boost our falcon to godly amounts of damage, and this buff stacks with all our bow damage. We also have Wake of Winds here, which is heckin' good, granting us movement speed and attack speed. Over here we get some damage and more falconry hits, and we also insta-kill enemies below 16% when we use our falconry skill. So make sure to save it for that. Now, all of the other nodes are just damage modifiers except for these ones down here. These three nodes are absolutely bonkers. First, we have trained to hunt, which makes it so that all 75% of our increased bow damage stats is granted to our falcon. The same goes for these nodes, go for the eyes, and exposed weakness, just that they grant the falcon crit chance and crit damage instead. We can't forget Falconer's Journey either, which is one of the reasons we want to stack as much dexterity as possible. And next, we have the smoke bomb. We grab these nodes so we can pick up smokescreen arrow. This one is great, allowing us to shoot the smoke bomb on our enemies from range. We then pick up these nodes here so that we can get to this one, moonlight bomb. Oh shit, will you look at that? Even more dodge. Yeah, each time we use smoke bomb, we dodge the next attack and gain ward. Pretty solid. Cleansing steam is also great, granting us a free cleanse. Now over here is the most important node of them all, Umbral Assault. Other than one shadow from our shift ability, this is how we spawn all of our shadow friends. And as you know by now, we need shadows for our dive bomb. Talking about dive bomb, let's check out what we're grabbing there now. All the nodes here are to increase its damage as well as reduce the mana cost. We're also grabbing Cloud Gatherer, extending the duration of our smoke bombs, which is nice. Previously, this node was giga busted, allowing us to stack infinitely many smoke bombs. But EHG said fuck you and nerfed it to shit. Here we have some more dam, and then we pick up on Wings of Shadow. Now this is how we deal damage. The smoke bomb will spawn 3 shadows, and our shift grants us 1, so we get a total of 4 shadows. Not only that though, they actually dive again LOL from dancing shadows. So we get 8 goddamn shadow dive bombs and 1 regular dive bomb. What the actual fuck, right? Yeah. Well, goddamn, that's the skills. Let's check out the passives now and then finish with how to get good. I'll throw in some sick gameplay tips in the end as well, so make sure to keep your pecker in your pants. Until then. We start by picking up 24 points in the rogue passives. Here we get some dexterity, health, dodge, and poison resistance. This is what we want though, 20% damage reduction. An absolute must-have. So get it, damn it. We then have 5 points in the marksman passives, which we want for some extra attack speed and healing. We also have 8 points in the Blade Dancer passives for the extra dexterity and to easily cap out glancing blows. And lastly, the Falconer passives. Here is where the good stuff can be found. Wilderness Scout grants some boring ass defensives. Here we grab some increased damage as well as dexterity, because dexterity is hecking busted. If you're wondering why dexterity is busted, then check out this passive bonus. Our Falcon gets 1 meal damage per 4 dexterity, and if you didn't know, flat damage bonuses are the gigachad of stats in this game. To further stack our Falcon beyond imagination, we grab Ranger's Mark. Only 1 point is needed here, as the stacking chance doesn't go up. Tactician grants yet more damn, because damn good, and then we get our glancing blows up from Deflect and Weave. Coordinated Fade is an interesting one, granting us a free dodge as well as ward after spamming our shift for a few times. Evasion Tactics and Relentless Talons grants us damage, and then we want Intuitive Connection. Making Falcon Strikes and Dive Bomb instant cast is a godsend. After that, we have, you guessed it, more damage. We also grab Poise, and we now have everything needed to constantly be capped out for glancing blows. Stymphalian Feathers is an absolute nasty passive, however. Not only are we granted armor through dexterity stacking, it also grants us armor whenever our Falcon hits stuff. And oh boy, does it hit stuff. And lastly, Finesse Them and Tailwind. Finesse Them is actually hecking interesting. I don't like hecking Dying El Mao, so I'm grabbing the crit avoidance cap. You can, however, choose to stack crit damage reduction if you want to go for big dam instead, as you can get crit multiplier here if you're not capped out on crit avoidance. Interesting indeed, but perhaps for another build. And for the last, passive Tailwind, reduced damage taken, movement speed and dodge. A damn good passive. Alright friends, that's all for the passives. Let's check out some tips and tricks on how to game. In monoliths, you'll just be zooming around everywhere, spamming your buttons on cooldown. Smoke bombs should be saved for elites, bosses, and arena maps. You'll then shoot the smoke bomb on your enemies and either stand inside it for extra crit damage or get the hell out of there and shoot from a distance. For bosses, however, things get interesting. Before the boss fight starts, you're going to want to start spamming explosive traps to stack up your dodge and glancing blows through dusk shrouds. You're then going to dump a smoke bomb and shift from the boss to get some of those sexy shadows out. And then, my friend, you're ready to nuke the shit out of the boss. Whenever the boss is down to 16%, you can use falconry to insta-kill them. I also had 2 secret techs for you here. For bosses that we can one-shot, we can easily swap to Morning Frost for that sick dam. And if we want to be tanky as fuck, we can go with Foot of the Mountain. If you're using Foot of the Mountain, however, then you should only be moving to shift, as you're getting a shit ton of endurance threshold only when standing still. Well, will you look at that? That's all for this build guide. Thanks for sticking around, legends. Don't forget to sub, and I'll see you in the next one.